What's up guys, and welcome to today's video. This is a new kind of video where I'm going to analyze my progress on Lady Inerva with my guild today. I'm playing as a Fury Warrior. We're two warriors on this fight, and I'll explain why it might be a good idea to get more warriors or death knights. So I'm gonna explain what I do and what my role is in this fight, and how I play it. So first off, make sure you've got all the buffs you can. You got your flask, you've got food, you've got oil / sharpening stones. You have your pre-pot ready. You have all the buffs. You've given out your attack power buff. You've gotten priest buff. You're ready to go. The next thing you need to think about is doing your opener correctly. So a few things can happen in your opener as Fury Warrior. Of course, the bull timer is ticking down, so when it gets to 2, this is where I start my cast of Shattering Throw, because it is a 1.5 second cast and it will take a little time to get there, and it lines up mostly with whenever it's pulled. I've never pulled ahead of the tank by clicking it on the 2, and together with Shattering Throw, I throw my Heroic Throw, and then I charge instantly. The first ability I use is Bloodthirst. Then I click my pre-pot. After that, I use my Recklessness. I use Rampage or Execute, which depends. It depends on if I'm enraged or not. Since the enrage buff really increases my damage, I have like 40% mastery, which means I get 40% increased damage while enraged. So if I'm already enraged, I'll normally click Execute to start stacking Ashen Juggernaut. Otherwise, I'll just click Rampage. Then you are in an opener rotation phase now. So you're basically just gonna click Rampage, Execute, Raging Blow, Rampage, Execute, Raging Blow. Unless you run out of Raging Blow stacks, you click Bloodthirst. There's not. It's another priority list, but Raging Blow does more damage when you're enraged, and overall a bit more. But since of your talent choices, it does more damage when you're enraged. So cycling Rampage, Execute, and Raging Blow is the most optimal thing to do here. Around the 10 to 20 second mark of the fight, you're gonna want to pop your Blade Storm to see if you can proc Recklessness or Avatar to further increase your damage output in the opener together with Bloodlust and your pre-pot. So then you just continue your opener rotation, which is still Rampage, Execute, and Raging Blow. When we're over this starting phase, the mechanics will start to happen. At about 20 seconds in, you'll get linked. Or they're called links on my screen. This is where you go line up the links with the orbs. So the way you see if you get picked is you'll get a big arrow above your head, and then you'll get pushed out away from the boss. So remember to phase towards the orbs so you don't have to go through your guild and damage them while you get to your orb. So another mechanic is these flasks that are thrown out by Lady Inerva. They should only be soaked by one player, and the melee DPS base shouldn't really worry about this unless they're literally in melee. So if there's a flask in melee where you can still hit the boss, go stand in it and say, "I got the melee flask," or something down like that. Optimally, it should be ranged people, mostly mages that are going to jump around and soak the bottles, which are out of melee's damage range, since you'll need as much damage as you can on Lady Inerva. You have about 6 minutes before the containers burst over and the whole raid is wiped. As a warrior, you have another role. Whenever ads are spawned, you can actually spell reflect that. And you have to use it before she casts it. So as soon as you see her casting concentrated anima, I think it's that what it's called, you should pop your spell reflect, and If you're lucky, it will spell reflect, damaging around 10,000 on Lady Inerva. And there will not spawn an ad. You will not take damage from the circle around Lady Inerva, but an ad will an ad will not spawn. So that's just as good as using an immunity. Like for example, if you're a mage, you'll use an immunity to cancel this effect, or paladin, you'll use bubble. In my guild, we have a interrupt order. I am first interrupt on skull. So when the ads spawn, there is 2 ads. If you don't immunity them, that is going to cast the spell called condemn. I'm first interrupt, so that means about 80% in the cast I'll use my interrupt, and then I can go ham on damage. I'll wait with my recklessness or my blade storm unless I know that I have enrage up and I can get my full duration of blade storm out before I have to interrupt. But please, mechanics over the DPS. So it is more important that I postpone my DPS rather than missing my interrupt and wiping the group. There's also a big ad called Harnessed Spectre. I would suggest this is you should talk this over with your guild, whether or not you want to focus that ad down fast or you want to cleave it off of the boss. I would recommend cleaving it off of the boss, unless it is called that you kill it fast, because the tanks has to tank the ad. If the ad is not getting tanked, it will cast a spell called Condemn, and it will damage the whole raid. So the ad always has to have 1 tank on it. So that means you cannot leave the ad with the boss unless the ad is dead. The further we get into the encounter, the more we go around the edge of the room, and the less space there is because of the vials leaving consecrated anima on the ground, if I'm not mistaken. At this point in the run, you really need to pump out as much DPS as possible. And in this phase, there's also an added mechanic to the orbs, which should be aligned. They eject these lines out from them. Wow, if you go through those, you take, I think it's 14k damage instantly, or something like that. It's really not good. So please be careful with those lines. Use a defensive if you have to go through, otherwise just avoid it at all costs. This round wasn't a kill, we actually wiped on Lady Inerva, but I think this is a good way of showing what I'm doing and what you should be thinking about as a Fury Warrior.